I'm a dad who games, and welcome to part 5 of my Sims homes of the 20th century with a 1950s rancher. Hi there. I'm going to be down here for this speed build because, well, I recorded this entire video during a Twitch live stream. And rather than having my face down here just going at 25 times speed, while it might be kind of funny to watch, I figured you deserved a little more than that. So here I am. Much like the last build that I did, the 1940s minimalist traditional house, the ranch is pretty boring. I mean, it's got the uniqueness. It's a single-story house. Just like the bungalow that I did, my current house is a bungalow, and our previous house was a rancher. So this one was kind of, again, kind of eerie making it because it reminded me of my old house. And I actually used that old house as a model for this build. Throughout all of these builds, trying to make the insides match the decade it hasn't really been all that easy. I mean, maybe with the Victorian and the colonial, but these more modern builds, it's kind of hit or miss. But for reference, I thought of things like Happy Days and the Wonder Years. Well, I mean, I think the Wonder Years was took place in the 1960s. But either way, the style of that house reminded me of Happy Days, and Happy Days reminded me of American Graffiti, and that is the vision of the 1950s I have. So I tried to make that happen, and I don't know. This house is almost pretty much the house from the Wonder Years. And again, like I've mentioned in other videos, I'm not going to pretend to be a connoisseur of architecture throughout the decades. I'm just a dad who likes to build things in The Sims. So trust me when I say this is a 1950s style rancher. So while I can't promise that the inside is accurate, the outside is definitely a 1950s rancher. That's about all I can say about that, but there's still a lot more to this video, and I'm sticking to my goal of not having you endure my hyperspeed self. So I was trying to figure out, like, all right, what's something to talk about? So I thought about what I'm good at, and one of the things that came to mind is that I'm a teacher, high school teacher. I taught high school for many years. And from that, one thing that my students always enjoyed was when I do story time, which now I don't mean like I get like a book out or something and start reading. I would just tell stories about my life, PC and all things like that. I'm not going to try to corrupt the kids or anything like that. Uh, the country does that already pretty well. But I would just simply commiserate with them because they're a bunch of teens. So let me tell them stories about me being a teenager, and maybe that can, bridge some sort of a gap. So I decided I'm going to do some story times for my speed builds. So before I even get started, please let me know if this is something that you enjoy, having me just ramble on and on about my former self as a child while I do my speed builds. Obviously, if there's anything of real note when I'm doing a building, I'll please let me know in the comments below. I would really appreciate it. And plus, I don't want to be doing this and have it be torture for you. Anyway, come back with me to the ripe old year of 1994. 94 was when I finished up middle school, and throughout middle school, I had to deal with the worst thing ever, and that was a mother that would pick out my clothes, the mother that would uh, iron my jeans. Oh, actually, wait, never mind. I never had jeans until high school. But my pants that I would wear, yeah, I'm not going to get into my family. But like she would iron my pants with like the line down the front, and that's who I was, including getting my hair cut, and that's why throughout my entire childhood into middle school, I had a bowl haircut, like like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. It was just straight across. And I know it was kind of a style that some people had, but uh, I don't think so. You can't convince, I'll never be convinced of that. And no matter how many people I see with that silly haircut. So it was during middle school that I learned that I was going to have to move to New York State. And I figured, okay, I'm leaving anybody I know behind. I can't say friends. I never had friends. I was a dork. But I wanted to change that when I moved. So I grew my hair long. I had just learned how to play guitar because of bands like Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Smashing Pumpkins, Stone Temple Pilots. It was 90s grunge. Of course I had long hair, ripped jeans, and flannel shirts. It was the style. And I jumped right into it. Unfortunately, the school that I went to in upstate New York was very well, long hair was not common. Everybody had more buzz haircuts or the classic like short hair here, but it was parted perfectly in the center. It was a 90s haircut. I never understood it. I thought it looked so bad. But um, I I was therefore an anomaly in my school. And I vividly remember my very first class was Earth Science, which I honestly thought was really cool. And the teacher, um, well, he was very feeble, I guess you could say. I mean, he was a wonderful guy, incredibly intelligent, and he always was fair. And despite not being the greatest at classroom management, he was a good teacher. Um, and he also worked at our local video store. So when me and my friends would go and try to rent a horror movie that was perhaps too graphic for us, he would have to make sure, I don't know if you should be watching this. But I mean, he would still give it to us anyway. Um, but I had his class first. And so, in other words, his was my very first experience of high school in this new town that I had moved to. I had spent my entire summer channeling who I was as a person with the long hair, playing guitar. And there was this girl. As I said, long hair was rare. So, it was the 90s, and unfortunately, the LGBTQ plus community was not nearly as well accepted as it is now, which that's not even saying much because we're still working with that to make sure that that community is represented. But when you had long hair in the 90s, especially in a conservative town, obviously you must be gay. And she, in that first period, first day of my high school experience, she called me Tinkerbell. Um, a little background on her. She was a freshman, and she was dating a senior. Oh, I think he was a football player, one of those generic roles that you might have for a senior that dates a freshman. Um, Granted, see, when I think about it now, that I wish I was myself as a teen, because the great retort would be like, "Oh, what? I'm gonna listen to you when you've got a boyfriend that the best he can do is get a freshman?" I wish I could have said that then, but I didn't. And so she held that above anyone. I'm gonna make fun of you. I'm going to bully you. I'm gonna treat you like shit because I got a big boyfriend who will kick your ass if you say otherwise. So what happened? I was Tinkerbell, and that spread throughout every class that I was in. So even as I was moving into my second class, thinking that you can start a new, fresh start, there would be students from that first period class. I was trapped. There was nothing I could do about it. So on went my experience dealing with the bullying and whatnot. I did manage to make some friends. Well, actually, I made a friend, and that didn't really help anything because it was also in my earth science class, and he was also just as quiet as I was, and so obviously we became a couple. But sticks and stones, yeah, I dealt with it, and I focused on school. I mean, as best as I could. I mean, I had a hard time in a lot of classes, and even though I got really big into English and I became an English teacher, my best class was math. But that's another story for talking about teaching. Again, if you're enjoying this, please let me know in the comments. And so I had a friend, and he was into music like me. I mean, he was another 90s kid. I played guitar. He wanted to learn how to play bass because of the Smashing Pumpkins bassist. He had a huge crush on Darcy. I was kind of indifferent. I was just too busy playing guitar and trying to emulate James Iha's hair. He had such awesome hair in the 90s. But then I wanted to make more friends, like, cause he was a solo artist, if you know what I mean. Like, I would hang out with him, and it would be us hanging out. Like, he wasn't big for groups, which I totally understood then, and as I completely understand now. But I decided, let's try something else. Let's try to join a club. And so I don't know why, given the stigma that some 90s kids apply to it, especially given my run-ins in my first period class, I decided to join the drama club. And now I say that because, different clubs and different interests come with stereotypes. And the classic one for drama club is, again, it's gay. And it's like, so here I am joining a club that has, among all the homophobes, a negative connotation. And apparently I wanted to double down on being bullied. But that aside again. But nonetheless, I did it because I wanted to act. I wanted to try it out. If people act all the time, I could totally do that. And so I did join it. I got a part. I think it was, wait, you can't take it with you? You can't take it with you. And I was some character that was like a fiance, and oh god, I had to sit down on a pretend couch, and the director, you know you're off to a good start when your high school teacher is the director. Either way, he told me to get comfy on the couch. You're just visiting a new friend and you want to get comfy. So I sat down and put my feet up on the couch. He yelled at me. He like got angry with me, saying why would you even think that putting your feet on the couch would be like important in, oh hey, the 1950s. See? There's a connection. Making a 1950s house. I'm talking about the 1950s. It's perfect. Well, somehow it is. Either way, apparently that's not what you would do, and he ridiculed me for it, and I was just like, no, this is not like, oh. And I walked out, and that was that. And that was one of my experiences with Drama Club, which I say one of them because one of my students' favorite stories is me telling the story of my first kiss. And that actually is connected here, but that's a whole story in and of itself. So you'll just have to come back for more next time with part 6 with a 1960s split level. Yeah, split level. I'm already getting anxiety thinking about trying to do a split level, but I know it is possible, and let's see if I can do it. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me today for another episode of Sims Homes of the 20th Century. I've been having so much fun making these videos for you, and it means the world to me to know that you enjoyed them. So please make sure to like this video, and hey, why don't you check out my other videos? They're essentially the same thing, only a well, okay, they're not at all the same. They all have me. So if you enjoyed this, you'll definitely like them. I am really trying to make something out of doing YouTube and also Twitch, so it would really be amazing if you subscribe. I can't do it without you, and I would really love for you to be a part of this. I'm active on Twitter, and I stream regularly on Twitch, so maybe I'll see you there. But until the next, have a day.